Hello, I'm Pam Gibert. I'm the chairman of the ad hoc committee on racial justice that was established by Clarendon United Methodist Church's Church Council. And we were established to respond as Christians to the racial injustice in this country. And one of our roles is education, educating ourselves and our congregation. And you know, we have sponsored some panel discussions. We've had suggested reading material and even a church-wide book reading of the book Stamped. And we are also recommending that we should learn more about the African American history of the community in which we live, Arlington. And because we are people of faith, we wanted to combine that education with prayer. And so we have conceived the idea of doing prayer walks throughout the community. And the first one we are suggesting is in the Halls Hill neighborhood. And we have published online some suggested walks through Halls Hill. But we are asking you, if you haven't done it already, or even if you had, to join us on Saturday, November the 7th, anytime between 1 and 3, so that we can walk through the community and have some prayer at interesting sites therein. Some of our committee members have already done this, and they want to share with you what their experiences were. Bless you all, and we hope to see you on November the 7th between 1 and 3 at the Langston Brown parking lot on Culpeper Street, 1 block from Lee Highway. Have a good week.
Second stop on your hike, and it is a park along Lee Highway, and it's a depiction of a family, an African American family, created by Winnie Owens Hart, and it's a man, a father, and a mother, and a child. And if you notice on the skirt of the child, there is words in Braille. And I think this signifies the inclusivity of this neighborhood. There's also an area closer to the church that shows the letters of Halls Hill and some interesting bricks created by children. Thank you.
Following the establishment of several Arlington volunteer fire stations in the early part of the 20th century, a group of African American volunteers in 1918 came together and purchased a 60-gallon chemical tank with their own money. This tank had to be pulled by 6 men over unpaved, often muddy roads in order to fight fires. In the mid-1920s, the Halls Hill Volunteer Fire Department was formally organized and incorporated, which included the selection of officers and building up a fleet of vehicles. Its first station was on Lee Highway, but it moved to North Culpeper Street in the mid-1930s. There it became a neighborhood gathering center where people came to socialize, share news, and used a pay telephone, and eventually even a soda machine. It was officially deeded as Fire Station Number 8 in the mid-1940s. In 1951, Halls Hill became the last firefighting station in Arlington County to have county-paid employees, about a decade after the others. This included Alfred Clark, who became the first African-American fire captain in Arlington County. All firefighters were African-American until the mid-1960s, and even then, many men in the county refused to be assigned there and work for a black person. Ground was broken at this site in 1962. Recently, the county talked about closing down the station to consolidate it with another one on Lee Highway. The Halls Hill residents and many others adamantly were against this and protested the move given its historic significance. We should be proud of all the heroic residents of Halls Hill who fought many fires as well as racial injustice throughout the past century. We honor them as we carry forward that fight in Arlington today with God's blessings and encouragement.
I'm standing in front of the Mount Salvation Baptist Church, which played a very important part in this neighborhood of Halls Hill. In 1872, a former slave, Moses Pelham Jr., moved from Culpeper to Arlington, and he purchased property right adjacent to where I'm standing. And a little bit later, he purchased this property. And when he got here, he formed a congregation of a Baptist church. And in 1882, they moved into this building, and in 1888, there's a cemetery behind the church. The first burial took place, and it's a historic graveyard of former slaves. And so it's a wonderful place to stop. And one little thing I read in the history of this church is that the baptisms used to take place down in Spout Run. They would block up Spout Run at the corner of the highway and Kirkwood and do their baptisms. That was, of course, back in the 1800s. So be sure to stop here when you take the walk.
Hi, I'm standing in front of the Segregation Wall. It's at 17th and Culpeper Street in Arlington. It was built in the 1930s when the neighborhoods over here started to develop with white neighbors. The historic area of Halls Hill was literally walled in, and the wall pretty much stayed intact into the 1960s. Finally, when schools were integrated, the kids in the neighborhood didn't want to have to walk blocks and blocks to get around the wall. I love the motto of the Equal Justice Initiative. To overcome racial inequality, we must confront our history. And this is our local history. Our Methodist Church really urges all members not only to pray about racism, but to learn about racism and to work for social justice and racial equality. This physical symbol of our past sufferings for our own neighbors here in Arlington provides a good spot to stop, reflect and pray, and remember the value and worth of every child of God created in His image.